Retirement is often the end goal of investing, but it should not be the end goal of your life. Let's hear what passion and purpose means at retirement.
Fellow investors, bonjour. This is Mike Leroux, founder of Dividend Stocks Rocks and passionate investor. You're listening to the Dividend Guy blog podcast where I and my co-host Véronique will help you invest with more conviction so you can enjoy your retirement.
Dividend growth investors, bonjour, Vero here, and you're listening to the Dividend Guy blog podcast. Mark Young is with us again today. Mark is the retirement coach at Retirement Loop. He's also a former software engineer who retired early to live a meaningful life. Today, we use his experience to discuss why passion and purpose at retirement matter so much. Mark, thank you for coming back. The more I get to know you, the more I'm intrigued by everything that you've done and how purpose is at the center of your life. So this is why I thought you'd be the perfect person for this topic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Vero, and thanks for having me back on the podcast and let me talk about something that I'm passionate about.
Yeah, this should be very interesting. So Mark, last time you said that passion and purpose are just as important as the financial side of retirement. Could you explain why?
Yeah, so as we record this podcast, we're just a week out from the Thanksgiving holiday. And traditionally, Thanksgiving was a time when people gave thanks to God for the fall harvest. I myself am a person of faith, and I believe that God made us to live for more than ourselves, to live a life of gratitude. And one expression of that gratitude is giving back some of what we've received. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to start preaching, but even if you don't believe in God, most people would admit that there's more to life than just living for themselves. And all of humanity benefits when we share our abundance with others who have less.
Right. So, Mark, you retired early. When your career ended, what filled the gap for you? Like, how did you discover what truly mattered?
Well, I was taught growing up that there are three things that we can give: time, talent, and treasure. And of course, when we're working and raising a family, time is in short supply, but it can be available in abundance when we retire. And talents are our skills and abilities, and they don't disappear when we retire. And as a problem solver for my whole career, my brain didn't just shut off when I retired. And I found myself craving problems to solve. And that's one of the things that drove me to create RL Projections, the spreadsheet tool we use at retirement. And I know there are lots of retired people with a ton of valuable skills that aren't getting used right now, and they're desperately needed by our society.
Right.
And then finally, treasure is our finances. And once we get the financial side of retirement figured out, we may find that we have more money than we need. And in retirement circles, money is often equated to enjoyment. And you hear this saying, if we don't spend every last dollar before we die, we've somehow missed out. I personally don't buy that. I think the happiest people know how much is enough, and that spending more won't bring more happiness. Once you have a comfortable buffer in your retirement projection and you've given an appropriate amount to your children, and by the way, it is possible to do harm by giving them too much, but that's a topic for another day, then why not give the extra to reputable causes that you care about and do it during your lifetime so you can see the benefit of your gifts?
Right. That's definitely an interesting perspective. And let's just like maybe touch the topic that you said it was for another day. Talking about children, Mark, that my two sons play hockey because I keep talking about that. But I see so many grandparents at the hockey rink like every week, cheering up for their grandchildren for sure, but also like helping their children a lot by driving their grandkids to activities and all that stuff. So giving time to your family instead of money is surely another way to find purpose. But do you think it comes with a risk of yet again putting everyone else first and forgetting about yourself and what you're really passionate about?
I think that's quite possible. I mean, we've heard the term helicopter parents, right? Where the parents want to be involved in everything. I've even heard stories from university folks that the parents are still involved in calling the profs when the child's in university, right? Which seems a bit excessive. So I think there's a point where you can be too involved in your children's life to the point where it's hurtful for them. But also, like you said, you need to live your own life as well. And so there's opportunity to do that. And that applies to money as well. You can also give them too much, right? And if they have too much, they won't go out and learn the skills that they need to earn money for themselves.
But that still must be difficult to figure out.
And I think it's different for each child too, for sure.
Right, right. Okay, Mark, a lot of retirees imagine that they will get to retirement and finally like do nothing, but then they feel aimless. Why is that so common and what helps break out of it?
I think one of our loopers, Christine, said it best when she said, retirement is not an endless vacation.
Mm-hmm.
For many people, when they're working, their sense of purpose revolves around their job. And if I'm allowed to generalize, this is especially true for men. Ideally, people could scale down from full-time to part-time work when they retire, but this isn't always possible.
Mm-hmm.
And those who go part-time at their workplace may find that they become irrelevant quite quickly and they lose their sense of purpose and in some cases their social life too.
Right.
So I think it's important to retire to something and not just from something. Mm-hmm. And so I'd suggest to people that they put some thought into what they want to do post-retirement and do some test runs even with an extended vacation or perhaps a sabbatical. Try it out and see if it's really what you want to do. Because, sleeping in every day, endless golf, or daytime TV gets old pretty quickly.
I can't help adding that my mom watches a lot of TV and I think this is so sad. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So Mark, you talked to many loopers, helping them by reviewing their projection sheet. And by the way, listeners, this is part of the membership at Retirement Loop. We will reopen the doors to Retirement Loop soon, so you may want to join our waitlist at retirementloop.ca/waitlist. So, Mark, did you notice something different between those with a purpose and passion mindset versus the ones only focusing on the financial aspect?
Well, I'm approaching about 100 reviews now, so I've got a good sample to work with. Projection sheet review takes about an hour, so I get a chance to chat with people, and I love doing them because it gives me a chance to get a peek into people's lives. And sometimes I find somebody who has a lot in common with me. We can chat about those things. But it is possible to have an unhealthy obsession with money. And really, money is just a tool to help us accomplish our goals. And the projection sheet has an entry for charitable donations. And it's not my place to judge, and I don't judge people when we're doing reviews. But though I find that those that give up some of their treasure to those in need seem to escape the power that money can have over their lives. They tend not to worry or obsess over it, and I'm really not surprised to find out that they give their time and talents to other worthy causes. Yeah.
Right. So you've done some amazing volunteer work yourself, Mark. Can you give us examples and how it changed your mindset in retirement?
Speaking of changing your mindset, there's a short essay that I would recommend reading. It can be found for free on the internet, and it's called A Single Lucid Moment. And the author is Robert W. Soderstrom. I'm not going to go into any more detail on that, but if you're interested, look it up and have a read. It will definitely change your perspective on things. So since retiring, my wife and I have been to Africa twice on short-term mission trips. And through those trips, we learned a lot about poverty, both about the Africans' physical poverty, lack of possessions, and our own relational poverty. And one of those trips was a 3-month stint with Mercy Ships. They're an organization that operates the world's largest civilian hospital ship. And just to put this in perspective, 6 operating rooms, a 200-bed hospital, and a staff of 700 volunteers, all on a vessel the size of a cruise ship. It's huge.
Wow.
And the organization offers free surgeries to the people of West Africa. In addition to that, they develop local healthcare infrastructure and they do training of local medical people. So they like to leave the country in better shape than when they arrived. And so, as you might imagine, there's a huge demand for surgery. And we're talking about things like orthopedics, hernias, cleft lips, life-threatening facial and neck tumors are a big part of what they do, and cataracts. And so when Mercy Ships holds a surgery screening day, there's a large turnout. People leave their homes and they walk or travel for days and wait in long lineups with the hope that they'll be selected for surgery. And unfortunately, Mercy Ships can't address every need. Some conditions are inoperable or they require special expertise that is not available in the current round of surgical volunteers. So in a group of about 25,000, and these are real numbers, about 25,000 prospective patients approximately 2,500 will be selected for surgery. And as you can imagine, it's really difficult to turn the others away.
For
And
sure.
so while we were with Mercy Ships, a nurse shared a story that touched her heart and ours and changed our perspectives. She was doing the surgical screening, and after a very long, hot day, the line of patients to be screened was coming to an end. And she examined an older gentleman who'd waited patiently all day, and she had to inform him that he was not eligible for surgery. And she apologized that she couldn't offer him hope. And believe it or not, the man told her not to feel badly and that she was mistaken. He received hope and felt blessed because he had been able to witness the hope and joy on the faces of many others that were selected for surgery.
Wow.
So despite his physical poverty, this man had the relational richness to rejoice for others when he himself could not be helped. I cannot imagine this happening in North America, and I can't even imagine how I would feel in the same situation. And,
Right.
the reality is when we engage with others from different backgrounds, whether it be across the world or even in our own country or city, whether there's social or cultural differences, it's never a one-way street. We always receive way more back than we ever could give.
Right. This is such a beautiful story. Sorry.
It's hard when we see our own poverty, right?
Right.
And we don't expect it, right? Because we think we have so much and so much to offer others, and then we go and see that they
They
have
offer us.
advanced in ways that we have not, right? It's very humbling.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, dividend growth investors, this is Vero. Mike is currently taking a sip of water, which gives us 10 seconds, and I literally mean 10 seconds to grow the podcast together. Go on Spotify or Apple Podcast, hit pause, and then under our logo, you'll see two very interesting buttons. One to subscribe, hit that subscribe button now, and then give us a 5-star rating. Our goal is to help more investors just like you, so please spread the love. Thank you.
But Mark, I can't help wondering, how did you find those opportunities? How did you went from Ottawa, Canada to Mercy Ships?
Well, believe it or not, the Mercy Ships opportunity came up on my Facebook feed as COVID was ending, and I was going absolutely stir crazy, needing something to do, and I expect a lot were in that position. Now, of course, my wife and I did a lot of research before signing up, and we learned just how great Mercy Ships is as an organization before committing. And looking back, it was definitely the right decision for us. But other opportunities came about by chance. So I had some friends who were starting a chapter of Cycling Without Age. This is an organization, a worldwide organization that takes residents of seniors' homes out for bike rides on special e-assisted 3-seat trishaws. And I knew they needed a website and a Facebook presence in order to raise funds. And I could do that, so I decided to help them with that.
So basically, you use your skills from your working life and carry them over to retirement. But how have you found joy using them in totally different ways?
Well, my background in technology has been really useful in volunteer opportunities. And during COVID, as we all remember, people were not allowed to gather. So I set up live streaming at my church and helped a lot of people. A lot of our people are older. So I helped a lot of people with Zoom so they could stay connected. And COVID was a very lonesome time for many people.
Right.
And I'd never done live streaming. I'd never worked with video equipment before, so that was a new experience for me. I had to do some learning there. But we've continued to live stream even after COVID to serve people who can't make it out to church for one reason or another.
Right. So I'm still trying to help people with as many tips as possible for a large background. So not everyone, Mark, was in love with their job or their lifestyle before retirement. So for someone who doesn't feel a strong calling or who doesn't want to keep their skills and really move on to something else, how can they start small and still build a meaningful retirement?
I would suggest trying something totally different. I did some management in my career, and there were people management aspects of my job that I didn't enjoy because they carried over from work to home. And I volunteer weekly at our local food bank, and that's an eye-opener in itself. But I simply show up for my shift, I stock shelves, I serve clients, and then I go home and it's done. And if I can't be there in any given week, I just let them know and they arrange for somebody else to come in. So that's very different from the management responsibilities that I had previously, where you had to be really thinking about them all the time. So I would say to people, think about the skills that they developed during their career. And many of these skills will transfer to organizations that couldn't otherwise afford them. So I'm thinking things like writing grant proposals, marketing, social media, finance, human resources, teaching, conflict resolution, and in my case, IT. And you don't necessarily need a medical experience to work overseas as well. I was working in IT on this big ship. And of course, as you might imagine, a ship with 700 volunteers needs some computer support to keep everybody organized and coordinated.
Right. So, Mark, would you say that you find even more purpose using your skills to like those foundations and volunteer work than just doing activities or keeping yourself busy in general, not necessarily helping others? Like, would you say
It's
there's another level to that?
it's a wonderful thing to be able to use your skills when you're not tying that to I have to earn an income. Use your skills just and enjoy them, right? Just do them for the
Hmm.
purpose of enjoyment. Do a wonderful job. Take extra time if you want to, and just do it for the satisfaction of doing a good job. And you
Right.
don't have all the pressures of work or getting it done in a short time frame or being worried about your job. None of those things exist in volunteer opportunity.
But talking about this, like I'm adding another question here. Were there times where you felt some pressure during your volunteer work to like deliver something actually?
During the live streaming, there's all kinds of technical issues that can go wrong, and they did. And we were learning. And if you look back on some of our earlier videos, they were just horrible. But it was a start and forgiving environment. And we learned as we went along. And actually, right now, it's at a state where it's not too bad actually. So yeah, that exists
Right.
too. But I think that's part of living, right? Is
Hmm.
you need a little bit of pressure sometimes to get going, and that can
Right.
motivate us. Hopefully not as much pressure as a really bad work environment though.
Of course. So Mark, you and your wife retired at the same time, but how did you navigate that transition together?
Well, my wife has been my best friend and confidant for almost 40 years now. We were talking about this the other day, and that's actually, more than half our lifetimes we've been connected, right? And we do a lot of things together, but there are a lot of hours in the week too. And we each have our own interests. So both together and alone time are important. And 9 years in, we're still working on finding the right balance of too much time together and too much time apart. But
Hmm.
communicating how we're feeling is the key. And if I've spent
Right.
too much time on my computer, which is my tendency, my wife will let me know.
You're still open to receive that message, which is important too, right?
Oh, for sure. Yes. Yes. And it goes both ways,
So,
right?
right, right. So what advice do you have for couples who are retiring at different times or who have like different ideas about how to spend their retirement?
I would say that if your marriage is important to you, that you need to develop some shared interests. And
Hmm.
often family life centers around the children, right? And when the children are grown and gone, there's nothing left to hold the marriage together. So I would say start by reserving some time, for you and your spouse, even before the children have gone, and find some
Hmm.
things you enjoy doing together. And believe it or not, your marriage will be stronger and your children will appreciate that and feel that, and they'll thank you for it. As an example, my wife and I are both part of a music group, and we enjoy traveling and we work on projects together around our home. We were out cutting brush the other day and working together on that. And it's just good to be together and see each other in different environments.
And what kind of music do you play?
I'm a drummer actually in our church worship team.
Wow.
So that was my midlife career crisis. I bought a drum set instead of a sports car.
I tried to play drums when I was in high school and I ended up on the clarinet. So to give you an idea.
I have a background in music, so that wasn't the challenge, but coordination sure was.
And I just want to expand a bit on the us time while the children are still there. My husband and I, like, we're still young, but I mean, we've been together for 18 years now. Even if we have three kids, we try to have a date at least once a month. So it can be as simple as going out for a coffee or a walk, but at least we make sure to spend time just the two of us, and it makes a big difference. Like every time we do so, we come back home and we feel relaxed, and we're back on the commitment together. Like we feel connected, and so I really would encourage everybody to try this out. Go
One of
ahead.
the things
Sorry.
my wife and I did when our kids were young is we had some friends who had children who were the same age as our kids. And so we would
Hmm.
trade off. We'd watch their children so they could go on a date, and then they'd watch our children so we could go on a date. And so you don't have the cost of babysitting, which can get expensive.
Hmm.
And you also know that competent adults are going to be there watching your children, which is important, especially when they're quite young. So that worked
Right.
well for us.
Good point. Mark, retirement is also a big physical shift. like routines change, activity levels may drop. How are you staying active?
Well, if you work at a desk job like I did, retirement can actually be an opportunity to increase your activity level. And
Yay!
yeah, we retired very young at 50. And the best thing that we did was to join an active group that meets on Mondays. And these folks, we do a bunch of different activities, including cycling. I'll put a plug in for e-bikes here, kayaking, hiking, and cross-country skiing. And because we retired so early, most of the people in our group are about 10 years older than us, but we built some solid friendships and it keeps us feeling young. And now 10 years in, we're starting to fit in better. So we try to do an activity 2 to 3 times a week, whether it's just the two of us or we might join with friends to do things.
Great, great. And how did it help your mental and emotional well-being?
Well, there's more to our activities than just the activity itself. I think just being with other people socially and being real about our lives and talking about our lives is therapeutic in ourselves. And we had a good discussion on our Monday group a while back. We were out hiking and we were talking about how hiking on rough ground is good for your brain because your brain is working out, where to place each foot as you're walking. And then has to continually adjust your body to have the right balance. And just never mind the fresh air and exercise on top of that. It can't help but be good for your brain and your body.
And what kinds of physical habits, like even small ones, would you encourage every retiree to adopt for both body and brain health?
Yeah, so to put it simply, our bodies were made to move. And so look for something that you enjoy doing or something that you have to do, like walking a dog twice a day would be an example of that. Finding something that you'll repeat and build into a habit is much better than going all out trying to become a weekend warrior or perhaps, running a marathon. Nothing wrong with those in themselves, but you need to find stuff that you'll repeat and you'll do on a regular basis.
Right.
And many volunteer activities require you to be active. That applies to things for our brain as well, right? Find some activities that challenge your brain. And like I said, even some of the physical activities keep your brain active and working too.
Yeah, we covered a lot of ground today. For someone listening who isn't sure where to start, like what's one simple thing they can do this week to start finding their passion or purpose at retirement?
Well, I'm going to give you a few, Vero. Many local communities have a volunteer or activity sign-up night. So go and just explore and see what's available in your community. Put together a volunteer resume. If you were going to apply for a volunteer position, and many volunteer positions do require you to apply, but put together a resume with the skills that you have. And I would say put yourself out there and try something different. It's okay to fail. A statement for the first 3 years at the food bank was, I'm the new guy. What are they going to do? Fire you? Right? So yeah, it's a chance to get out there, try a few things and find something that clicks with you.
All right. Well, thank you so much once again, Mark. It was a fun and really thoughtful discussion too. Listeners, to get more insights on retirement planning and to continue the discussion with other people like you, you may want to join our Retirement Loop waitlist at theretirementloop.ca/waitlist. We will reopen the doors to Retirement Loop soon, so you don't want to miss this. And you will also get a link to download our 20 income focused products review. So again, retirementloop.ca/waitlist. For our show notes and related content, hit thedividendguyblog.com/250. If you enjoyed this podcast, hit pause and click the subscribe button underneath our logo to avoid missing any episodes. If you'd like to appear on the show, as you can see, we do not always discuss dividend growth investing. Message me on the Dividend Guy blog Facebook page or the Dividend Guy on X. And until next week, stay invested.
Hey fellow investors, it's Mike here. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. Please note that the Dividend Guy blog podcast is at no time issuing buy or sell recommendation. Please do your own due diligence as this podcast is recorded for information and hopefully fun purposes only. Make your research, make sure you do your stuff. We're not responsible for your losses or your profit after listening to this episode. And until next one, stay invested.